Hello everyone and welcome to today's webinar. Today we'll get an insight into how the CVB joint venture of Costain, Vinci Construction Grants Projects and Bashi Solantanche building the east section of the Thames Tideway Tunnel improve productivity on site by building mobile processes. I'm delighted today to be joined by Lampros Arvanitis, BIM Manager at CVB Joint Venture, and my colleague Paul Stone, Product Strategist here at FlowForma. To kickstart this 40-minute webinar, Paul will interview Lampros, who will share details of the CVB joint venture and the processes that they've automated for the east section of the Thames Tideway Tunnel. Lampros will then give a quick demonstration of the FlowForma process automation tool, so you'll get to see a live process created by Lampros himself. Paul will then finish with some further information on process accelerators and templates available for those in construction. So guys, I'll hand over to you.
Thanks, Ursula. It's Paul here. So welcome everybody to our case study spotlight today, where we're going to focus in on the CVB joint venture, a large construction project in London. And joining me from that is Lampros Arvanitis, a BIM manager. So welcome, Lampros. Welcome to the show.
Hi everyone, thank you very much for having me here. It's very excited to show what we're doing at CVB and the Tideways regarding our digital processes.
That's great. So today we're going to have a kind of a Q&A session. So I'll be asking Lampros some questions in relation to his work on CVB joint venture. So the first one is to do with, well, learning a little bit about the CVB joint venture and what it is, so the Thames Tideway Tunnel project. So Lampros, maybe you could discuss a little bit about that.
Yes, of course. So CVB stands for Costain, Vinci Grants Projects and Bashi Solantanche joint venture, which we are three major companies, construction companies, and what we are doing, we are building the east section of the Thames Tideway Tunnel in London. So our challenge is to build a new sewer for London to prevent the frequent pollution of the River Thames. And to do that, we are building a large underground tunnel. By doing that, what we're trying to do is to prevent the 50 discharges on an average typical year that are happening at the moment on River Thames. And this is happening because of the growing population in London. So our vision is not just to clean up the River Thames, but also to promote a change in the relationship between Londoners and the river by bringing the river back to Londoners' life. And to speak about the numbers and about our projects, it's a 25-kilometer long tunnel. It's going up to 66 meters deep and 7.2 meters wide. So it is starting from the west of London and is going all the way down to 66 meters to the east. So it's going with the flow, everything going with the flow. It's a gravity tunnel and it will cost us approximately £4 billion to build. So these are the highlights of our project, and we have also a documentary on BBC that is called the London Super Sewer, so everyone is welcome to watch this.
Wow, I mean, it's clearly a large, complex project, I guess running over a long period of time. There must be an awful lot of workers involved in the project, and I guess it works for multiple construction work sites because it's 25 kilometers long, so it's not a single site. And I suppose, as well as that, lots of administration associated with that too, because you've got so many workers spread out over such a wide variety of sites and so on. The kind of communication between those workers and processes must be very complex. I guess that leads me on to So I guess that leads me on to my next question, which is, what motivated CVB to digitize processes for this joint venture?
Yes. So as you said, there are so many different companies involved, so many different people, different sites, and what we have to do is to try to manage all our processes. So what motivated us in the beginning is that, first of all, we wanted to reduce paper usage and also to reduce the time we are completing our processes. So we wanted to reduce paper usage by introducing digital tools like FlowForma to digitize our processes. So we will end up with no more lost or unreadable paperwork on the job sites, and also for reducing our processes, so we'll be able to see where are the process holdups, having a tool that will allow us to understand our processes better and track them down. So this is what motivated us originally. And also, what we wanted to achieve through the digital processes is that we want to have better structured data that will give us the ability to analyze what we are doing, and this will, of course, improve our compliance and governance upon our processes, and these are the main drivers for us.
Yeah, you know, we see these challenges a lot, especially in the construction sector, where the construction sector is so dominated by pieces of paper still. And of course, reducing paper usage gives an awful lot of advantages, like, you know, the paper, there's lots of opportunity for errors when you're passing paper between site workers and then between site workers and administrative staff, which are in different locations. There's obviously opportunities for there's risks in data being lost, and then there's opportunities for delays in the time it takes to transport physical pieces of paper. So yeah, I mean, getting paper out of the picture.
Exactly, and especially during these times.
Be a clear advantage, I guess, to any construction site, and certainly we've seen that. Yeah.
Exactly. So during these times with COVID as well, having digital processes enables us to be able to promote the remote working that we want, and so we'll have all our people on the construction sites and only the people that are really needed there.
Yeah, of course, with COVID, again, you don't really want paper around because you have your staff working from home, or some of your staff working from home, and passing data between home and people on site and so on. Again, paper is just not the right medium for that. And of course, paper is something that can be used to transmit that COVID disease as well. So you really don't want that physical contact. So yeah, I guess there's a lot of justification, a lot of motivation for you to move away from paper and digitized processes, which kind of leads me on to my next question, which is, you know, what did CVB require when you were looking for a process automation tool?
Yes, so we did a bit of investigation at the beginning, and what we wanted to find, to be honest, was something that has a familiar web interface and it's easy to use. So we wanted something that is integrating well with our current systems, and because we're using SharePoint and FlowForma is sitting on our SharePoint, then it was something that we wanted to investigate. And also, as I said, that because we have SharePoint, we want that data to be stored there as well. And we were trying to find a solution that will give us the agility we want, the speed to deliver the processes, but also the flexibility to deliver these processes by ourselves.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I mean, I certainly get that point about the familiar web interface, because one of the things we've seen in organizations that are dominated by paper is that if you're going to get people to use a digital tool to replace the paper, in other words, to stop using the paper, you have to have that easy to use interface. I mean, it's really essential to encourage adoption in the workforce. And the next thing, I guess, is that speed of delivery. Yeah, so you have to be able to build out your solutions by yourselves, because if you're dependent on other resources like external IT resources or IT, you know, your IT department, you know, it's going to take a long time to digitize your processes. So having that ability to do it yourself, you know, it gives you an awful lot more flexibility in terms of, yeah, digitizing those processes, getting them adopted.
Exactly. And now that you're talking about flexibility, what we also wanted is that we didn't want to disrupt so much what we're doing already. So we wanted something that the outputs will be to our CVB templates, our internal templates, so people will not start seeing something completely different to what they were doing already. And also, something very important, and what we wanted to find as well, and was very in our requirements, is the mobile access, because we wanted to start using processes and digital forms out on site, but also the offline capabilities of these mobile devices, because we have areas on sites that they are not accessible by internet connection, and it would be difficult if the offline capabilities were not there. Also, we wanted access for our external users as well, and this is something that we really wanted to to investigate, and it was in our requirements as well, because we have a lot of supply chain, a lot of different clients, and we wanted to, we have not a lot of different clients, we have one client, but a lot of different supply chains, so we wanted to be able to engage with this as well.
Yeah, there's some great points there, and I think that's an interesting one about outputs to CVB templates. You know what, we see that a lot when we have organizations who want to move away from paper. Because of their existing record keeping requirements and so on, they still need a PDF that replaces that missing piece of paper, if you like. So they're very happy then gain a lot of benefit from digitizing the paper, having electronic forms and so on and workflows. But they still need that PDF output at the end that actually ends up going into their records for future reference. So yeah, it's very interesting to see that that was a requirement for CVB. Again, we've seen it not just in construction, but in healthcare and other environments where you know, they're moving from paper to digital, that they still need to have that digital paper copy, if you like, for filing.
Exactly.
And yeah, and access for external users is a very good one, because you want to, you know, if you're going to digitize, you want to gain full value from that solution. And that means not just running it inside your organization, but actually helping you interact with your external suppliers and customers as well. And I suppose that really means that you gain most value from your efforts to digitize, because you're minimizing delays not just inside your organization, but delays that occur when you're interacting with external parties as well.
Yes.
So if I were to go on to the next question there, which is basically, you know, how did you get started on your digital journey, and can you tell us about some of the processes that you have automated so far?
Yes, of course. So we started our FlowForma journey approximately 4 months ago. So we made sure because we wanted to start as fast as possible, we made sure we enrolled to the Sure Start program that FlowForma it was able to give to us, which is actually we had like 1 week workshop, 2 hours workshop every week, that someone from FlowForma was helping us live with our processes to be able to structure them, to create them, and to go live as soon as possible. And we ended up having our first process live after only 2 months.
That's great. Did you enjoy the Sure Start experience? Did it meet your expectations?
Yes, yes, of course, and the team we were working with is very good, and gave us everything we required. So this is the thing, because when you start, and because FlowForma is targeting us to be able to do everything we want by ourselves, so Sure Start was a great start for us to be trained and then be able to take over and do as many processes as we wanted after that.
That's great, because I think it's quite an unusual offering in that it's kind of combines training and the actual delivery of your first production process. So at the end of it all, you can start measuring return on investment straight away. And it's really good to see that it worked out well for you, and you got that process live. So after Sure Start, I guess you were able to start to become self-sufficient and build out your own processes yourselves?
Yes, we are working on a lot of different processes at the moment. And at the moment, we have live 2 processes. So the first one that we worked was the new project starter level forms. So everyone that is coming in our project or leaving our project, we have digitized this process now. And because this onboarding process involves a lot of different teams, a lot of different people, and different sign-off stages, different training requirements and things like that, what we have done, we have digitized this now, so people are doing everything online, they are signing online, and this is a very smooth transition to what we had before. And also the second process we have up and running at the moment is the digital daily site diaries. So this is, and as it says, site diaries, so this is coming from when people were just using diaries, paper diaries, to record what is happening on site. So now we are digitizing this, and we are moving everything to online on our SharePoint and through FlowForma.
And that's great progress, Lambros. So I guess one other question would be, what results did you see from implementing FlowForma process automation? So have you been able to measure those yet, or is that still work in progress?
So it's a bit work in progress. We are in early implementation stages, to be honest. So only 2 months since we started, I first rolled out our first process, and we're currently quantifying the results. However, we have seen that it has improved a lot our remote working for the specific processes we have rolled out at the moment, because people can access them from anywhere and they can see where in which stage they are. So we have improved our process governance. And of course, now with COVID and working in the construction site, we have a lot of strict record-keeping requirements. So having this digitally with structured data, the ability to analyze that data is helping us a lot. It's a very, very, very positive outcome so far. Plus, when you have all this structured data, we can analyze through Power BI dashboards and anything else you are using.
Yeah, that's great. And I guess a big advantage of going digital is that, the systems build an automatic audit trail. So straight away, you've got all the metrics stored in the system on how processes are performing. So you can go back and analyze those for retrospective analysis to see, what has been the ROI, what's been the real impact. But also, you have this up-to-the-minute current Power BI dashboard that'll highlight bottlenecks and problems straight away. So you always know when, as soon as the delay happens, you know what's happened, and you can go and act on that and do something about it. So
exactly, it's also this idea have so much information included in there. So we said, why not use this information to understand better our sites? This is what we're trying to do.
It's a big back end, if you like, advantage of doing digital, because you get all the benefit of an electronic form, which replaces the paper and removes a lot of the risks and increases efficiency. But then you have all the back end reporting, and the back end reporting can be even more valuable. Certainly on another construction project we work on, I know that the back end reporting, they calculated they made very significant savings just on having that data available on the dashboard. So yeah, it can't really be overstated just how important that reporting back end is, because that's data, of course, you wouldn't have had in the past because you were working on paper. The data is just, it's lost. If it's written on paper, it's not recorded anywhere. You can't use it.
Exactly.
So yeah, big advantage. Okay, so next question is what's next? So you've started off with your couple of processes. You got your dashboards going. So you started the snowball rolling, but what's next?
So because we have seen a lot of uptake in our digital processes and in the use of FlowForma, we have seen that a lot of different teams are trying to find more and more interest. So we have a very big list at the moment of processes that we want to digitize, and we're looking to digitize in the near future. What you see here, this list is only the processes that we have currently as work in progress. And very soon we hope that we'll be able to roll out to our teams. So we're talking with our environmental teams, with our quality teams, the design teams, the site teams to find out what we really want to do.
It's a good shortlist, I think. I recognize some of those straight away, like field change requests, a common process in construction. So yep, and the processes are quite varied, like in terms of like environmental inspections, a lot of check sheets involved. They're kind of processes that you use on site, and then field change requests are more document-driven processes. So there's quite a variety of processes that you have in front of you there. But it's interesting that the tool should be able to handle all of that.
Exactly.
And as you roll them out, you'll be able to measure the benefits.
Yes, and it's a constant challenge. You see that when you start talking with different teams, you can see that you can improve some of your existing processes. You have a lot of different things to think of, and FlowForma, to be honest, gives us this flexibility to be able to include a lot of different steps in our processes, a lot of different outputs from our processes, and it's something that we're very happy at the moment.
That's great. I mean, what we've seen with other clients is that once you get that snowball rolling, you can really generate massive return on investment. The more processes you implement, the more money you save, and you can really end up hitting surprisingly high figures. So we hope very much that CVB will also achieve that too in time.
Yes, we hope as well. And now that we're doing our we're quantifying our results, I will be able to share some of you with you in the near future.
That's great. That's great, Lampros. Good to hear that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so what we're going to do now is Lampros is very kindly going to give us a quick demonstration of the process that he's been talking about here. So Lampros, maybe if we could have a look at your screen and you can work away and give us a quick demonstration. Thanks very much.
Exactly. No worry at all. No worry at all. So here I have the Flow Designer open. So this is where, first of all, we're structuring our process. We're creating our flow in FlowForma terms. So you can see we have 3 different steps in our process, and you can see here a lot of different business rules assigned to the steps, a lot of different questions. So you can have a question that is a choice question, or you have a date question, just a text question, depending on what you want to register, what you want to record. And you can also have we have the visual form designer, where you can edit how your process looks, how your process feels, and you can make it to based on your organization colors, your organizational standards, and do a lot of cool stuff here. So this is about the flow.
So
anything you want to
that
ask
tool
first?
is bringing everything together. It's got workflow, it's got steps. Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh no, it was just to say that you have the workflow and then you have the data. And then you've also got the business rules. So the business rules are kind of doing automatic actions, I guess, like sending emails. And I think you can see one there, generate documents. So you're generating documents. So these are the automatic actions that FlowForma is doing to help the people carry out their workflow, carry out their process.
Exactly.
And that's all configured in that one tool. That sounds good.
Exactly. So if I leave the Flow Designer now, what we have done for our process, so this is the daily report process as we were talking before, the digital site diaries. We have created a sub-site within our existing SharePoint, and we use it like a portal with all the information we want to do and find, and all the actions we want to do. So you can see we have a submit a daily report button here, where people can click to submit a new daily report, and a lot of different other functions and buttons someone can do. And this is where you can see how FlowForma can integrate with SharePoint and having everything in a web interface that you're already using. So this is how the digital form looks like when you open it up. You can see the different steps here, and you can see the different fields that people can fill in. And specific for site diaries, what we found out is that because the site diaries are very related to what happened the previous day, what you can always do is you can go to populate information from a previous day. So let's say you can see all this information that is blank at the moment, and I say, okay, I want to bring information from the previous day. So you see now everything is being auto-populated.
That's fantastic, because anybody moving away from paper, for sure, they don't want going digital to be an extra chore. You know, they want to make it has to be easy. You know, it has to be easy for them. So if you have the ability to pre-populate data like that, it means the transition, I guess, from paper to digital is just so much easier for them.
Exactly. This was very key for us to be able to engage with this tool, because we didn't want people to start spending much more time than they were spending before, and actually we want to reduce time. So when we submit this, then it goes to the next step, to the checker, and then to the approver, and eventually what is happening, we have a SharePoint list where all this data is being auto-populated, is being registered straight away with the submit button, where you can find your information and then analyze, link Power BI dashboards to them. However, what additional tools we are using is, first of all, it's automatic emails, which is very similar to this one that I'm showing you here, where the next person that needs to act is receiving this email with a link that they just follow, they click on this link to the email they just received, and they go, the next step is being loaded, and they are filling the information they need.
No, that's really good. It keeps the process moving. It drives the process forward, and I think that's so important to achieve the efficiency gains that you want to achieve with digital. That's great.
Exactly, exactly. And then the last thing that is happening as well is that there is a new PDF being created based on our template. So you can see that this is being created straight away. And you see there is a much more smooth transition because you are receiving an email that you expect to receive emails during the day. You are seeing a PDF, and that's it. That's it. So this is where my demo is finishing. Just a very quick demo of how one of our processes is working.
That was really great, Lambros. It gives us it's a nice, short and sweet demo that really hits on the main benefits of the system. So yeah, that was really useful. Um,
No worries.
so I think that was very good. And what I'd like to move on to basically is just to sum up some of the reasons as to why construction companies select FlowForma. But these reasons you can also apply to lots of other industries. So we work across a wide number of industries. But first thing I guess is that from the demonstration that you've seen with that Lampros has given, it's pretty clear that you don't need a lot of digital skills. You don't need digital skills to actually adopt the system. So from a business user perspective, it's very straightforward. And you can construct your workflows and so on to pre-populate data and make that user adoption very easy. And maybe what we also should say here is that we have an award-winning user interface for business users. And one of the big benefits of this user interface is that it's very similar regardless of the process. So if you actually have many different processes, which may be very different, the process itself may be very different, but the user interface is similar. And that user interface is available through the browser, so the web, if you like, interface. It's also available on mobile applications for Android and iOS devices, again, with a very similar look and feel. And it's also, we're just launching a Microsoft Teams app. Again, we'll have a similar user interface. So the user interface is very consistent regardless of the process. And that means that once you learn one form, one process, you can easily work with another one and another one and another one. And that helps a lot with adoption, because that's a real challenge, especially if you have an organization that's running on paper. If you want them to switch to digital and stop using the paper, you have to concentrate on adoption. And in this current COVID situation, a lot of people are working from home. A lot of people are using Microsoft Teams and similar tools, and our web-based solution is very applicable to people working in diverse locations, whether it's on a 24-kilometer tideway tunnel, or whether it's on a large road construction project, or whether it's across different countries and people in different departments and divisions within a company. It makes people work a lot closer to each other, because the information, as you're capturing it digitally, is immediately transferred onto the next person in the process, and they can see what's happened before, they know what they have to do right now, and then they can pass it on to the next person to achieve the business goal. So and particular to say as well that, like I mentioned before, we've built a solution for Microsoft Teams, as well as other devices like mobile devices, to make that whole adoption process easier. And at the end of the day, you can concentrate on removing paper out of the organization. It's interesting, you have lots of people who have, lots of clients, excuse me, who have really tried to remove paper to increase sustainability. So we have a hospital, for example, a large hospital in Ireland actually, who has saved 900,000 pieces of paper per annum by digitizing their paper forms. So really has a big impact on sustainability. The other thing about it is offline mobile access, particularly in construction, where people are working on remote sites. Mobile access is not always available. Sorry, network connectivity is not always available. So we've built our mobile applications to allow you to complete a step in a form while offline. And then what happens is when you get back online later on, you can connect in and synchronize up with the SharePoint database. And particularly useful, I think, for Tideway as well, because they working down in tunnels a lot of the time, and the connectivity is not always available. So it allows you to capture data and transfer it back to your system, to SharePoint when you have connectivity again. The other thing is it allows you to engage with your customers and suppliers. So this is the engage functionality that we mentioned earlier on, where you can actually interact with suppliers and people who are not part of your organization. Another thing is low startup costs. I think generally with digitization projects, a lot of them go astray because of the high levels of investment required up front, coupled with the adoption challenge, because you have to adopt the system to measure the ROI and prove results. So with FlowForma, you can actually start small. It's so important to start small. And just like Lampros is doing at the moment, building out those forms, you start to get the system more widely adopted within the organization. You build momentum, and then you create a self-sustaining environment where you can actually configure all those forms, those process solutions yourself, and you greatly increase the number of processes that are automated within the company. But you can start small, low startup costs initially. And then because the system tracks everything, you can prove returns. So as you're digitizing those processes, you can measure the impact it's having on your organization and use that to justify building more processes. So you start small, and then you prove the returns on your first few processes, and then gradually get the snowball rolling and increase adoption throughout the organization, increase the number of processes, which ultimately increases the ROI. So we talked a little bit earlier on about templates that are available. So you can absolutely build your own processes, and that's indeed what Lampros has done with the joiner starters leavers processes and so on. But we do have some templates that you might find useful. So we have templates for project restarts, or COVID-related templates for staff remobilization and so on. We also have some standard templates for different types of construction processes. So whenever you're looking at FlowForma, or if you are on the phone to us, you should ask us about what templates we have available to help you get started. The next thing is just to cover off some of the companies who we work with. We have over 100 customers throughout the world, and this is just a few highlights. What you see there is a large number of construction companies across the globe. So we work with people like the A14 Integrated Delivery Team, a project that was delivered 6 months ahead of schedule. And we like to think that was partly as a result of their involvement with FlowForma, but we certainly have a very positive impact with them. And they adopted FlowForma on a large scale for process automation. We also have Inland Rail in Australia, Maverick in the US, and a number of customers outside of the construction sector as well. So we operate in a number of different sectors. Okay, so what I'd like to do now is to go back to Ursula, if I may, and see if we have any questions and answers for the day.
That's great. Thank you very much. And thank you to Paul and Lampros. It was great to learn about the Thames Tideway Tunnel project. And it was amazing to see a live process that you've created yourself, Lampros. We probably have time for a couple of questions from the audience there. So the first one, Lampros, I might pass on to you. So Noel is asking, what extent did you have processes documented before you started to digitize?
Yes, so of course you need to have the process documented beforehand. So, and this was an easy way for us to have a look at which process we want to digitize first. So we started looking at digitizing process that we had already very well structured. We had a very well process flow before already, so we knew what we were doing, and this is what we tried to do.
Great, thank you. And Paul, do you have anything that you'd like to add from your side?
Yeah, it always helps if you have some documentation to begin with, but you don't have to have a whole lot. Like the idea here is that if you have, let's say, a paper form and you have a one-pager description of a process, that's enough to start. And the great thing about FlowForma is you can build a prototype very quickly. So you can build a prototype and test it out with those end users to set their expectations and manage your expectations and validate your prototype. So you don't have to have a whole lot to start off with. The more the merrier. Obviously, if you have everything documented in great detail, that is fantastic. But you don't have to. You can start small and then refine your process by interacting with those end users. And that helps things a great deal in terms of adoption, because the end users feel a bit of ownership to begin with, because they're involved in the building of that process early on. So
I have to
yeah,
agree with you, Paul, because in several processes, other digital forms and processes that we are already looking, we just start with a paper-based template that we already have, and we don't have like a flow chart or a very difficult process behind it. It's just a template, and you say, okay, we want this to digitize because we want to capture the data. So we just crack on and we transfer everything on FlowForma.
that's great.
Great, thanks, guys. Paul, I might direct this next question towards you. So Dave is asking, or he's saying that customer experience is at the top of their agenda, but could you explain how they can enable contractors to input into our processes? So you might have briefly touched on that in the presentation, but maybe you could go into that a bit further.
Yeah, sure. We have a feature in FlowForma. We call it CX, and basically it's or FlowForma, excuse me, FlowForma Engage, and it allows you to increase your customer experience CX. So how that works is that you can designate any steps in a flow as being external steps, and people from outside of your organization can complete those external steps. Now, the way it works is unique links can be sent out to those people, and what the system will do is it will validate that user. So let's say I have an email address, paulstone@gmail.com. You can actually assign a step in the process to paulstone@gmail.com, email Paulstone. You'll have a unique link in that email. And when he clicks on that unique link, the system will request Paulstone to log into Google. And once Paulstone's logged into Google, it will display the step in the browser. They can go in and enter data and submit that information, and it will come back into your own Office 365 environment. So imagine you have a supplier and you have a contact within the supplier. You can email that contact. They can click on the link. They can fill in a supplier, let's say a supplier application form, and then that information comes back into your Office 365 environment and is processed through the rest of the workflow. And you can have that as the first step in the form. So it's like the step that's initiating the workflow. And you can even make that step anonymous so that you can put a link on your website, public website. They click on the link, they get an application form, they fill it in, and then it submits into your internal environment. Or indeed, you can have any step in the process like that. So it could be the 5th or 6th or 7th step, whatever it is. You can assign it to those external resources. And the great thing about that is that those external resources do not need to be set up on your Office 365 environment as users. So therefore, it's very secure because you don't have to manage all the security around those external users. It's just handled. They are truly external, completely external users. So that ultimately, by interacting with those external users in that way, by including them in your workflow, you're improving the communication channel there. And that's ultimately going to lead to better service to your clients, and also better relations with your suppliers as well.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much, Paul. And sorry to be pushing you there, but we're just tight on time. If we didn't get to answer your question today, I'm very sorry, but we will definitely get back to you post-webinar. I just want to thank everyone for joining today. And as a next step, I would suggest you download our latest white paper created in collaboration with PEX, Why Digitization is No Longer an Option. Our process experts will also be happy to provide you with a live demo of the tool, or you can register for a free 14-day trial at flowforma.com/trial. And I'd like to thank you again for joining, and thank you, Paul and Lampros. We hope to see you again next time.